and go ahead and get started so that we can wrap it up. So those of you who might want to go and hear the flower, hi, the Killers of the Flower Moon speech. We're going to go ahead and get started. So if you guys want to stand and join me in the pledge, please. Sorry. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated. Okay. Tonight's agenda is pretty simple. We're going to talk about the results of the election, what we could have done better, just a few things that we touched on last night in our officers meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about the parade, and then we don't have a meeting in December, so I'll just tell you that now. I'm going to remind you again at the end. The next meeting is in January, and I believe it's the 27th. I have that written down here, so I'll find it. Okay, the results. So we were all there. We know how that happened and how that went down. But I went through the data precinct by precinct here in Washington County, and I compared what happened in every previous type of race, like the last House race, the last governor's race, the last Senate's race. And I compared them to each other, and I tried to find some silver linings, and there are actually a lot more than you would think. For the governor's seat, the county was down a point or 1.25% overall from the Edmondson race, which was disappointing because we had a lot of momentum. I thought a lot of excitement, but it just didn't play out that way at the ballot box. Only one precinct showed an increase, which was precinct 23, and it did jump 3%. But everything else kind of stayed right where it was the last time or came down a point or two. So not a whole lot of movement in the governor's race. Yeah.
Edmondson always got a lot of Republican voters.
Yeah.
Edmondson was very popular with Phillips. So like, I'm not too surprised there wasn't a big change.
Right.
People don't know that background. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, she was always fighting an uphill battle too, you know, and I think she did well, but it just wasn't good enough for what we needed, obviously. Yes.
Did they commented and there wasn't near the Democratic out there.
Right.
That was kind of disheartening.
Right.
Lots of people, because that's the polls saying this, but when the people got out there, they didn't.
Right.
Vote, and that irritates.
Yeah.
Okay, my husband is one of these people that he votes because I tell him, you're gonna go vote.
Right.
And if I don't tell him who to vote for, he'll vote for whoever the golf guys are voting for. So now I tell him again who to vote for. And the first thing he said was, okay, how can she change? That's what really ticked him off.
Yeah.
But he did vote for her. But he said, doesn't make any sense that she can go from being a Republican to being a Democrat. Why did she do that? And I don't think that was explained enough to a lot of people, like not intelligent people, just people, and not college.
Right.
Okay, that why and how. The only reason he said, you know, the only reason she switched was why. And I said to run against it. Well, he said that didn't make any sense to me. So that was what needed to be explained. I think that was never explained.
Okay. I mean, and that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's what his group of
well, and you know, honestly though, people who are that stuck on party, I feel like we have a hard time ever breaking through to them. We could maybe explain it to them, but that doesn't mean they're going to accept it, and that doesn't mean they're going to vote on our side. So right, and that's true. Right. Yeah. Well, but she was a Democrat on this ticket, and she did switch parties. And maybe that was a question that they should have asked one of the 3 times that she came through town, you know? Yeah.
No, they, when they get close, the races get close, they threw out the fear tactic. I mean,
Right.
The two biggest one were, man, we're gonna eliminate everybody who's in the orbit. That's, I mean, that's.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, we can't do anything about those scare tactics. So like this meeting, what I want us to
Yeah.
focus on are the things that we can actually do here in the county to affect it. I can't control what
Yeah.
Republicans do. And I know they're gonna use those scare tactics next time. I know they're gonna use fear because that's in their playbook and it never will not be. But we have to find a different way, obviously, to
Yeah.
reach our voters. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I want to stay focused on. I feel like we're kind of starting to veer off into complaining land and
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah.
venting, and there's plenty of time to do that afterward at Price Tower, okay? I'm gonna move on to the lieutenant governor's race. The county was down 3%. There were no silver linings there, period. Like she just did not perform as well as the other candidate. No precinct was up at all. Corporation Commissioner Rarigia also down 3%, same story. Senate,
Sorry, before you do, Governor, I asked her, and I don't remember how long ago it is. We voted, enough people, not enough people voted to put them on as a party ticket. We haven't had that. I didn't know when to Oklahoma was until that happened. And I think it would have been helpful because then they could have worked together.
we don't have that party ticket in
Huh?
Oklahoma. We don't have that system in Oklahoma.
No, I know, I'm just saying, that's something that I think it needs to be looked at, trying to get, we have to
Like
get
an
permission.
amendment, okay,
Yeah, to bring that back up.
Well,
Okay.
If we had that, we would have had a different person.
Right. right,
That's just a
yeah.
totally different question.
The Senate, Kendra, she moved up 1%, but Madison Horn was down 1.5% in the Senate races, so almost no movement there as well in those races. But here's where we have some good news, was in the House race. Naomi moved the county up 3%, but what was interesting was there were many counties in the south part of the state that moved down. But interestingly, the northern part of the northern part of the county and in Bartlesville, she was moving precincts up by 5, 8, 10, and 15%. So any Democrat that moves any precinct up 15% over the previous race. I think that was just visibility. I don't know, honestly, though. Yeah, because Gilpin was here. Well, that was Koja, Asamoah Cesar. Racism, perhaps?
That and,
Yeah, and it could be road,
Roe
yeah,
here.
Who was he running against?
yeah, it could have been, yeah.
But there
Yeah, and they could, not for her race. The only door knocking that really took place was for Joy Hoffmeister's campaign. The only one that was organized that I knew about. Yes, in this county, yeah. So definitely not the door knocking in that case, but I think Roe could probably explain some of that. With this. No, you're right. Yeah, no, that came out of my mouth and I thought, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah,
Didn't had some organization that people like ethics.
right, yeah. And then Gina, the county was up 7% over the last Secretary of Education race, or Secretary of Public Education. Bright spots for her were southeast of Bartlesville. She moved precinct 74, that moved up 5%. And then she moved 13 up 9, 11. There was another one for 5, and then precinct 75 was up 13%. So she did pretty well considering the last race, but not well enough across the state to really compete. DeCoon, the treasurer, he ran, and last time he ran as an independent. I didn't realize that, but he won, or he lost his race, but moved the county up 0.5%. And that's basically it. So it was kind of a wash. We didn't do much here, but nationwide, the Democrats performed much, much better than we expected to. And you have to remember, when the National Republican Governors Association is pumping money into Oklahoma to defend a Republican governor in the safest of red states, then they are not able to defend the governorship in other places like Kansas, where, or they can't challenge in Kansas where we held it. We held it in Minnesota, we held it in Wisconsin, we held the governorship in Michigan, we held the governorship in Pennsylvania, we flipped it in Maryland, we flipped it in Massachusetts. We had a great night overall. We held the Senate, and we have a chance to take another seat in Georgia. And I encourage you in the time that's left to get involved with Reverend Warnock's race.
Yeah.
He needs help, and that would give us a little bit of a cushion, which would be very, very next 2 years. So,
Equality, it's right there.
right. So we've got to get involved in that. So don't think that what we did here didn't matter, because every dollar that every one of those Republicans had to spend in races here in Oklahoma was a dollar that they couldn't spend helping their friends in other states. And ultimately, in a razor thin majority, you know, in the Senate, and a razor thin majority for the Republicans in the House, these things matter. Every single dollar matters. Every minute you spend in these races matters. So thank you very much for all the hard work that you guys put in this campaign season. It's bittersweet. We don't have a lot to celebrate here, but we're all Americans. And at the end of the night, I think America came out better than she could have. So,
What is the answer?
yeah, so that's a great question. And I wish I had like a crystal ball, you know?
Democrat.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Is it, there's an answer, but we don't know it. There's an
I think there's
answer.
a psychological answer, not the-
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know.
Like they dismiss integrity.
And that's a great
Period.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's power is what's.
Yeah,
What's out there.
Voting, that is all about, yes, and that's.
Right.
People vote, but how do you do that?
it's a good question. It's a good question.
I mean, if
Who?
you ask the people who don't vote, why didn't you vote? I mean, is there any way to find?
Well, I mean, you,
Wasn't always like this.
no, it wasn't. Yeah.
Well, I continue to ask.
Well, and this state, its constitution was the most progressive constitution written, period. There is no state that was written with a more progressive constitution. This state had a socialist party for a while. That is how left it was. I mean, I don't know what has happened, honestly, to this state. I don't have the answers to those questions. I wish I did, you know, I wish I did, but I don't know. So, well, we had a lot of really, really involved people, our officers, John, Celeste, Rebecca, Crystal was involved, bringing
Yeah.
people to town, helping us with the headquarters. There were a lot of people involved, so thank you all for all the hard work that you did. Moving forward, we did discuss, you know, we think we did social media pretty well this time. We tried to connect more with you guys via emails and stuff. One thing that we think we could do better is perhaps disperse more of our funds for get out the vote efforts. Was a little bit reticent to do that, just because I'm very conservative with money. It's kind of a weird dichotomy there. But I'm really conservative with money. And when we raised that money, it was with the intent of outreach, not necessarily getting people to the polls or getting them out to vote for a specific candidate. So we spent $500 on a radio ad in the last week. And then also Celeste had some flyers printed up that she passed out for the Gina and the Joy event that last week. So
Surprises me that they didn't do better with the teachers
I know,
and the parents.
Yes.
lacking them.
I know.
Where
I don't understand that either. That's,
They didn't do better.
yeah, Celeste.
Give whole school teachers, she says that they're surprisingly conservative. I mean, you know, that's going back a ways, but she said that they're surprisingly not
I realize, but that, I mean, this was their job, this was their pay, this was their life.
Well, and that's, I think, a question that we could all ask of most Republican voters in any segment of society, because it just seems like voting Republican would be voting against your best interests unless you are very, very, very wealthy, something like that, which that's such a small portion of the
Right.
population in Oklahoma. So I could ask nurses, why do you vote Republican?
Right.
Teachers, why do you vote Republican?
And
I could
would
ask
say
garbage men,
women
why
should
do you vote
vote
Republican? Yes.
Okay, I have another thought about what you were asking about, how do you get people who don't vote to vote?
Right.
Well, I would say you don't worry about them so much. You worry first about your voters, the Democrats who usually vote. We probably, at least I feel like I should have done a better job of making a system so that we could reach the voters who are Democrat or usually vote. Because they're the base, right?
Mhm.
They're the
Yeah.
easiest ones that you know you can count on.
Mhm.
And so we didn't really do that. There were some technical hurdles, and then it was just time, there just wasn't enough time. But I would say that is something that we can do better. And during the next off year, that's what we will be doing, is reaching all of the actual Democratic or Democratic leaning voters. And then go to the independent voters and try to touch base with them, and then also try to contact non-voters and turn them into our voters. But I feel like that's like down the list.
Yeah.
First thing is get out the vote, and get out your vote.
Mhm.
Right? You don't want to be getting out the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Indians, Chief Hoskin, but it seemed like he waited really late in the election to say,
But I think he
No.
felt at that time he would have more impact.
I think,
If he did it for the election, I think it was
I think it was too late. I think,
really,
because I didn't hear him saying really,
he
you
was
know,
hitting the media outlets like a couple, 3 days before the election.
right, but it was, I think, and it didn't reach enough people. And especially if the Indians, if they're in on the reservation back farther, it would take them longer to get in to vote and to find a way to vote.
Well, and if you think that, like, let him know.
Yeah.
Reach out to the nations and let them know that in your opinion, they have a really important part to play in this, and they need to be doing it earlier.
Yeah.
Like, reach out and let them know for sure. Yeah. Yeah, go.
They were unable to put together completely the tribal compact of the 5 largest tribes until fairly late in the game to have an absolute yes from them. There's a fundamental structural problem in putting this together. And that really relates to the fact that going back to 1980, where we always go, right?
Yeah.
The tribes prior to that were primarily Democrat. And then there was a big shift. Within Oklahoma, they were able to sort of make the argument that traditional values, traditional Christian evangelical values were related to traditional tribal ideas. I don't know how they managed to do this, but they did. They did. They managed
Well,
to.
it's like what they're doing with now.
Uh-huh.
It's like, well,
Yeah.
And I think it all hinges on road because Tina voters are overwhelmingly Catholic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It's not just that, it's they're getting out and physically talking to those people and giving them a face to look at,
Yeah.
somebody to talk to. That's what they're
So,
doing.
Democrats in that area just kind of running.
We're pretty bad about not doing that.
Well, kind of like, we don't know. the
And
rules.
I'm as guilty as anybody.
Right. Well,
And I don't work in the public anymore, so I don't have that avenue.
Okay,
Right.
let me finish what I was saying on this issue. The tribes are well positioned to educate people on these issues. They did not have nearly enough time to educate them, and they certainly didn't have time to persuade them away from entrenched attitudes about consistently voting Republican.
Hmm.
And I heard many stories about the fact that the advertisements that came out in the final days scared, particularly older tribal people who had made the switch in '80 and were like, they considered themselves, Reagan Republicans forever. That they were like, yes, it's true, she's of the Biden party that destroys the United States, which I'm like, how is it destroying the United States? I never can get an understanding, but that really affected a lot of those people, and it really didn't matter what their chief was saying. And this goes well beyond 5 tribes. This goes
Yeah,
it goes fully tribal, 39 tribes. People were saying it everywhere, and even chiefs who are far right of Hoskins were still saying vote for Hofmeister. And there are just some plain old economic reasons for that. Even in small tribes where I felt like some people didn't even have the best understanding of House Bill 1775. There was just, quite frankly, this issue about gaming and increasing the tax on gaming. And that state wants to double it. And that's really bad for the tribes. So if for no other reason, they should have turned out the vote. That was it. That's what made the difference on the compact, because everybody was not necessarily, people were scared to come out and say they wanted their people to vote for a Democrat. They didn't know what people would think. This was a big deal, but now we've had the compact. Now we've gotten past a hurdle, a really
Right.
important hurdle. Now we probably will start moving in that direction. I know a lot of natives are saying, I remember back whenever everybody was a Democrat. And that's the way it should be, because it's better for natives.
right.
And I think that there's a lot of energy behind that. When we pull that vote, it makes a huge difference in Oklahoma. So that, to me, you want to talk about a positive takeaway from this election, that actually happened.
Yeah,
That makes a big difference.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Did you-
Well, don't
did
you
you have
think it's also that in doing that,
And
and
that's,
going
Hold
that
on.
direction, it's important to let these people, whether they're natives, whether they're Hispanic, whether they're Black, that just because we're Democrats, we're not taking you for granted.
Right.
Right,
No,
You are important.
right. Allison, you had something you wanted to.
Yeah, I was wondering if you have any statistics on the age demographics and how they.
No, we don't have any of that information right now. All we have is just the rough numbers that the state has from just the votes going into the ballot box.
How
So
about historically?
historically, we probably have that information or some information to suggest how people voted via exit polls and stuff like that, but not for this election for sure. It's just too early.
Speaking of statistics, dude.
yeah, and that's a statistic I want to find out. I'd like to find out. Because people that I knew that were Republican that were gonna vote for her because of the interest in Indian bill, where it was talking about, whatever, and I think that's what we need to find out. And way to sway those people, I think it takes a lot.
Mhm. Did you have a comment?
Speaking of statistics, do we know who, I'm going back to who didn't vote. What counties, who did not get out?
I mean,
and
you
vote?
could,
The
you can,
Democrats didn't vote.
yeah, so if you go to the election board website for the state, you can look at all of the election results for every single county. Now, I only broke down like Washington County
right.
because there's a lot of
Right.
counties in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for them. I'm just responsible for this little bit of the state. Thank God it's the smallest bit. And so that's all I looked at, but they do have information for all of those. So you can dig into that and see, how, people voted, but I don't know
Sure.
on that. So one more thing that we just have to do before we leave tonight is approve the minutes. I kind of set some over there. Maybe you didn't pick them up. Rebecca usually does an excellent job of typing these up, but if you will, just take a look at the minutes really quickly. If you care, I'm just seriously gonna give you like 30 seconds. And then we'll approve those really quickly. If you see something that needs to be amended, please do let me know. There are two sets of minutes. There are the September and the October. We failed to approve the minutes for the, at the last meeting. Are there any objections to the approval of the September meeting minutes?
I move the approval.
Perfect, thank you. Is there a second? Great, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, let's take a look at the October minutes. Anybody object to the approval of these minutes? Perfect, a second? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, so those meetings are, or those minutes are approved. Thank you. For the reports, we have a Christmas parade happening in Bartlesville. We can have a float if somebody would like to spearhead that. We don't really have a truck or trailer at this point, or a burning passion to do it. Yeah. So if anybody really just is dying to do it, let me know. And you can totally do it for us. Otherwise, I think we might pass this year. You know, the Let's Go Brandons were enough, I think, to last me a couple of years. So it's good. I hope.
I'm gonna make sure.
Okay, good. Celeste, do you have a report?
I have our bank balance is $3,766.17.
Thank you. John, do you have anything to report? No, okay, and our secretary is absent, so no report from her. That is all I have. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Can I?
Yes, yeah,
I just one more thing.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
something that I've thought about and in terms of training.
yeah,
Kind of thing.
Yep.
I'm not real comfortable with the idea of making phone calls, but you know what, if I sat with somebody who did make phone calls
mhm,
and watched how they did it.
Yep.
I would be a whole lot more comfortable with making phone. calls.
Yep.
Same way with going door knocking.
uh-huh,
I'm not comfortable door knocking by myself. If I were to go with somebody and learn how to do that. And feel good about that.
Right.
Then next go round, I would be more than happy to knock on doors. And maybe take somebody with me, like my
Right.
daughter or another friend
okay.
or something. And I think that's
Well, and that,
something that we really need to look for.
and we can do that, absolutely. This election cycle was the first time that I had been involved in texting with a campaign. And so that was something that I thought, you know, people just did on their phones, but it's not. It's something you do on your computer. And you just click really fast, like, and it just sends out. I mean, I sent 500 texts in like 6 minutes, just clicking, you know, send. And I communicated with tons of voters in Oklahoma City that night. In fact, this group that I was with, we sent out 10,000 text messages in less than 15 minutes. And that's a lot of communication with people. And then all night long, I'm just chatting with them on my computer, which is so much easier for me because my thumbs are big and fat and I can't type on my phone very easy. But I was afraid to do it until someone showed me how. And then once I was shown how, it was so easy. And I think it's the same way with everything. And so we'll set that up. We'll do that here. We can absolutely do
Great
it.
for improving our
Yes.
outreach and contact.
Thank you for that, Thank you. Yeah.
Program.
I'd like to continue this conversation just before we adjourn.
Yeah,
So I think people still have some things. to
first,
consider.
for sure.
And I think that is a great point. I did a little bit of door knocking. And it was really great, but I talked too much. It took too long. I got a great conversations, but they were deep, long conversations and I needed to just like, you know, go door to door more. But I talked to other people who did, and I think it's a hard and scary thing to do, but if we did it together, we can do it without even a campaign. Over the next
Mhm.
year, we'd like to do it. We do have a plan to have door hangers. So we'll just print up like 2,500 door hangers and drop them, we won't knock on the door.
Because if we make contacts where there's not an election.
What?
That's what
They
we-
will.
Well, we're going, they're just going to be given to registered Democrats. So we're going to be targeting people who are
We have
registered
lists of all
Democrat.
the Democrats and addresses, and that gets updated every month. So we can, you know, carve out a neighborhood and say,
And I've done this before, it's really easy with two people, one person drives and the other person, you know, runs up and hangs it on the door. You don't want to, or we open door, we're not gonna reach them at this point. But we're gonna do that and just let them know that we have meetings, that we're active, and we'd love for them to, you know, get involved or join us. And that's kind of like low contact, but not as intense as.
Yeah. Yes,
When we have meetings, you guys, bring a friend.
yeah,
Call
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Say, "Hey, we're meeting."
exactly. Yeah.
I think also we lost a little bit of our energy because we were kind of victims of our own success. You know, we had the candidates were here this year,
Mm.
boy, they really liked Bartlesville this year.
Yeah.
The word got out. The word got out.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
This was such a great place. That they just kept coming back. and
Yeah.
coming back, and so we have limited time and energy, and so that our time and energy kept going into these campaign
Yeah.
events, and I was like, well, can you like get together and do one event with 5 of you instead of 5 little events, but they weren't, you know.
we looked at the
coordinated.
schedule last night of all the stuff that we've done since
Yeah.
June, and it was mind blowing. I feel tired, but I should be dead. Yeah,
Yeah.
What I read, 7% of independents didn't vote, and so that just blew me away. And John and I talk on Facebook a little bit, we've talked about it, Celeste has talked about it. I really think that like every independent door needs to be knocked on.
okay.
Um,
Well, and that's a good point too, because a lot of people have been leaving both of the parties to just become independent. And so, you know, there are people that are potentially friendly to our causes.
This county alone, we've seen a drop of 400 registered Democrats. It's my suspicion that they've gone over to the independent side.
Yeah.
Well, let me say, you know, like I work a lot on 788, the medical cannabis.
Mhm.
I literally registered thousands of people to vote over 5 years. And so a lot of times, you know, these people had never voted before and had no idea. And they didn't know what to register as, and so we would ask them a couple of basic questions, you know, like, about this or that. And be like, well, it sounds like you lean this way, you know, but I'll tell you, the people that we registered the very most, and they were the ones motivated by medical cannabis, were independents. They registered as independents, and most of them didn't know what they wanted to be.
Right.
I mean, they're out there, and a lot of them think. you know,
Well, and it's hard to get them, the single issue voters especially, to the polls, which was why it was very disappointing that the issue wasn't on the ballot this time, because I think those independents that we want, those Democrats, the young Democrats that didn't show up perhaps as much as we need them to show up, all of them to show up. Yeah.
So with younger, crowds, I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of it is apathy.
Yeah.
If you slap some cool on it, it's a little bit better, which I know this sounds so lame, but, so I'm in roller derby,
Uh-huh.
and we
Yeah.
actually have another roller derby person in town. And if you get someone that's skating around, asking questions through like an event, that's great. And then, I also have 12-foot skeletons, you have no idea how many people come by my house.
All right.
So, like, it really is just like, factor helps with the younger people.
Well, and we have not done a great job of outreach with young people because they're not all on Facebook anymore. That's like an old person's platform, which, it was like young people's stuff when I was younger, right? So we are talking about texting to reach these kids because they're on their phones always. Like you have to get you have to have something pop up and interrupt what they're doing. And so we're gonna do that. But then I'm sorry. I mean, they are, I'm just not cool enough for that stuff. So yeah, I will work on cool for Christmas and we will maybe get a TikTok account. I mean, I-
Naomi was great on TikTok.
Yeah, Naomi's,
She
you know, and I'm
does
friends
it.
with her. I will talk to her over the break
Yeah.
and I will do like a boot camp. Okay, hold on. I'm making a minute.
Ready, don't be.
Naomi, yep. Make me cool. Okay.
Roller skate here.
Oh my God. I could always roller skate. I could never roller blade or ice skate. It's like just something about that. Okay, any other suggestions? These are all really good.
I have a comment. I get, like, more bill. The people that I just hate the most, and there are out there, that I would almost call the public and that they will use scripture and they will tell anyone who's a Democrat is not a Christian. That really hurts.
Yeah, that is frustrating. And
And
again,
I-
that's,
you know, that's where.
well, that's one of those messages that we can't control and we just have to ignore and find a way to reach those people. Anyhow, yeah, John,
I make a motion that we adjourn.
that sounds good. Is there a second to that? Good. Yeah, all those in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody just dying to stay here? No? Okay, great. Listen, our next meeting is in January. We'll send out an email to let you guys know it's the last Thursday. It's possible it won't be here at the library. It may be at Crossing Second, because they have a room in the back that's a little bit nicer than this space. So yeah, just keep an eye out. We'll send it out in the email and let you guys know. Okay, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. Have a happy holiday season. Enjoy Thanksgiving, the month of December, and all the celebrations you may have. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, yeah, you're welcome. And I think there's the Killers of the Flower Moon thing might still be going on upstairs. So if you want to sneak in really quietly, that's also up there. So, yeah.
So the Women's Network has a meeting and